Hey guys, welcome back to my Living in Ann Arbor channel. I think I've got a really good one for you today. As you might have heard over the last week or so, the National Association of Realtors, NAR, settled the class action lawsuit against them by agreeing to pay damages in the $418 million range. NAR, along with several major national real estate firms, were accused of a form of antitrust practices that resulted in keeping the commission rates home sellers were charged over the past several decades artificially high. Now, I've had a lot of my clients and customers ask me over the past couple of weeks as well what my take on this seismic lawsuit and ensuing judgment is. So that's why I'm doing this short video to hopefully answer some questions that my clients and maybe some of you guys out there have about this pretty major development in the real estate industry. The lawsuit Sitzer-Burnett and the subsequent outcome has rocked the real estate world to its core. Now, some pundits are saying that the way real estate has been done will never be the same. I think that's a bit over the top, but hey, time will tell, right? But there did need to be change in the way real estate has been practiced over the past 40 years for sure. So what has happened as a result of the verdict is that the commission paid to the selling broker and buyer's broker has been decoupled. Before, when a seller decided to list his home, sell his home, the commission, typically 6%, he paid to the listing broker, included the buyer's broker fee as well. This was all set at the onset of getting the home listed, and the normal procedure was to split the 6% commission, 50-50, 3% to each broker. And this buyer broker compensation amount, or the co-op fee, was listed in the MLS by the listing broker. So the buyer's agent could look at the listing and see what the seller's broker, was paying as the co-op fee, which I mentioned was typically 3% of the final sales price of the home if the buyer's broker brought a client that bought the home. But now, with the new rules, the listing broker cannot state anywhere in the MLS that they're offering any compensation to the buyer's broker, meaning that the seller, in theory, will pay his broker an agreed upon commission amount to sell the home. And now, here's the big change, the buyer's broker and his buying client will have to work out how he or she will be compensated if the seller is not paying any cooperative compensation to the buyer's broker. Again, these two fees have been decoupled, which, by the way, with the lone exception of the US, this is how real estate is done in virtually every other country. That is until this landmark court case turned this decades-old compensation model in the US on its head. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds about all the details of the court case, the accusations, and the subsequent guilty verdict, but I would encourage you to take the time to read up on this court case yourself. Again, it is the Sitzer-Burnett case, and I've got a link to it in the description below. So who is most affected by this major change in the real estate industry going forward? I'm going to say that it's probably going to be the buyer who's going to feel the most negative impact from this court case, especially the first-time VA, FHA buyers who already may be struggling to find a home in the price point and area they desire. And if they have to come out of pocket now to pay their agent, they won't have the money, bottom line. And add to this that the home affordability index is the worst it's been in 40 years. So many buyers, even conventional buyers, are not going to be able to afford a home if they have to pay their buyer's agent's commission. However, it could also have some possible benefits, though, allowing buyers more freedom to pay for the services that they want and avoid paying for those services that they can do themselves. Buyers going forward will likely desire a more flexible structure now, as they can pick and choose a la carte which services they want from the buyer's agent. So I think it will be more like a pay-for-service structure versus a 2.5% to 3% flat commission rate. But we'll have to see how the buyer's agent's commission compensation plan plays out in this new environment. So that leaves the buyer basically three options if they find a home they love, where the seller is offering a very small or zero co-op fee to the buyer's broker. Number one, if they want representation, they have to somehow come up with the funds to cover their buyer's agent's fee. Number two, if they don't have the funds to cover their agent's fees, then they simply can't buy the house. Or option three, they'll bypass their buyer agent and go directly to the listing agent, who probably has a clause in his listing agreement with the seller to give the seller a better deal if he represents the buyer as well, and buy the house through the listing agent. This type of scenario is called dual agency or double dipping, which creates a host of problems in and of itself. Having one agent represent both the seller and the buyer can be very tricky and risky, primarily to the buyer, because the listing agent's first responsibility, loyalty, is to the seller. And by the way, dual agency is banned in 8 states because of its inherent problems, and more states are considering this ban as well. Think of it this way: you'd never go into a legal situation where you have one attorney representing both the plaintiff and the defendant, right? So why do people think this scenario can work in a real estate transaction, especially when a real estate transaction is probably the biggest financial decision a person will ever make in their lifetime? So option three can be very risky for the buyer. Now, I don't feel this change in the cooperative commission practice will affect the luxury home purchaser, because these buyers have the financial wherewithal to be able to pay their agent's commission if, and this is a big if they feel that the agent can demonstrate his or her value. Now, regarding new construction, how does this affect you as a buyer of a new construction home? That's a really, really important point. So if you're a buyer of a new construction home, you know you don't need an agent to represent you. You can walk right into the sales office and meet with a representative there. They'll be glad to write you up, take your deposit, and you'll be good to go. No agent required, and you'll be saving tens of thousands of dollars potentially, because you don't have to worry about paying your agent's commission. Right? Well, not necessarily. I'm going to be doing an entire video just on new construction and how you can still be on the hook for a buyer's agent's fee even if you don't have one representing you. Steve, how's that possible? Well, I'm going to tell you how that's possible. So keep an eye out for this video coming up soon. You're not going to want to miss that one. Hey, I just want to take a quick pause here. First of all, thank you for watching the video. And if you're getting any benefit value from this video, if you could like, share, and subscribe, that would be so awesome. Thank you. Now, speaking of the buyer's agent, it's going to really impact agents that primarily work with buyers, especially agents that can't show their value to a prospective client to get that client to want to fork over 1 to 2 to 3% of the purchase price of the home to them. And keep in mind, this 1, 2, 3% comes directly out of the buyer's pocket. So the buyer's agents that have basically been door openers and order takers for the last 5-10 years for their clients are in for a rude awakening. Buyer agents are really have to bring their A game now, and to be able to show their buying clients that they're worth whatever compensation they're asking for. Also, one of the new changes that has come about as a result of the settlement is that buyer agents now must have a signed exclusive buyer agency agreement with their clients before, and let me repeat, before they can show this buyer client any homes. No longer will an agent be able to say to a prospective client or buyer, sure, you want to see some homes? No problem. Let's jump in my car and go look at some homes. Let's go check them out, without first having a signed exclusive buyer's agency agreement in place. Now, I think this requirement is actually a good thing. I've always done this with my buyer clients. It gives us a chance to meet each other and for me to explain what I'm going to do for them to earn their business and what they can expect from me as their buyer's representative, and just as importantly, what I expect from them as a prospective potential client of mine. Now, who is going to potentially benefit the most from this commission settlement agreement? Obviously, that's not very hard to figure out. Sellers will soon get the memo that they now have options when it comes to what commission amount they pay to get their home sold. By the way, sellers have always had the option of negotiating the commissions they were charged. They just didn't know it. And that was basically the crux of the lawsuit. I can imagine a lot of potential sellers are celebrating, thinking they're going to be able to save a fortune now that they aren't responsible for the buyer's agent's commission. However, that celebration might be a little bit premature. I believe, and this is just my opinion, that if sellers refuse to offer some sort of compensation to the buyer's broker, they're going to limit the number of showings they get on their home. And depending what price point they're at and what buyers they're targeting, i.e. first-time buyers, VA buyers, FHA buyers, they're only going to be hurting their chances of finding a buyer for their home, because these buyers are not going to be able to pay their buyer's agent's commission out of their own pocket. So this is what I see happening with a typical first-time or marginal buyer. They'll talk to their agent and say, I want to see these 7 homes this weekend. So the agent says, sure, let me check to see if any of these sellers are offering any kind of cooperating compensation. If not, Mr. Buyer, you may be liable for part or all of my commission, which again, most buyers in this price point are not going to want to do. So let's say 2 out of the 7 homes are offering some sort of compensation to the buyer's broker, but 5 aren't. You know what the buyer's going to say to his agent? Well, just show me the 2 homes that are offering you compensation, because I won't have to pay you, and forget the other 5 that aren't. So as a seller, can you see that if you're not offering some sort of compensation to the buyer's broker, your home probably won't be shown? And remember, you've got to show your home, get people through the door if you want to get it sold. That's just a fact of real estate. So this is how I see things playing out in the post-lawsuit real estate landscape. I think sellers, especially the savvy sellers, are going to realize that they're going to have to offer some kind of compensation to entice the buyers to come see their home. Now, that compensation can be anywhere from a flat fee, depending on the sales price of the home, or it could be a certain percentage of the final sales price of the property. Again, as a seller or buyer, whatever fees or commissions you decide to pay to either agent is 100% negotiable. There are no set rates. Now, there'll be some sellers that are going to say, I'm not going to pay anything to a buyer's agent, screw them. And I get that thinking, but you may be kind of screwing yourself as well. As a seller, you want as many buyers looking at your home as possible. Again, the more people looking at your home, the better the chances of you selling it. That's basic real estate 101. But by not paying any kind of compensation to the buyer's agent, you're only hurting yourself, in my opinion. So when I'm meeting with a potential selling client, I'll lay out all their options. Option 1, you don't have to pay a dime to the buyer's broker, but realize that it's going to significantly shrink the pool of potential buyers for your home. Or option 2, offer some amount of compensation as an enticement to the buyer's agent to show your house. And if what you offer as compensation isn't enough for the buyer's agent, then he can work out the difference between his client and himself. Of course, the choice of whether to pay any compensation or not is always the client's choice. But my job is to be 100% transparent with my clients and give them all their options and explain the ramifications of their choices. And there's one last thing I want to cover. A lot of experts are saying that this commission lawsuit is going to make homes a lot more affordable because of all the possible commission savings by the seller. I don't believe this for a minute. Why would it make homes more affordable? Just because the seller now doesn't possibly have to pay the buyer's agents 2 or 3% commission doesn't mean he's going to discount his sales price by 2 or 3%. No way, unless he's very desperate to sell, that is. Sellers want to make as much money as possible to put in their pockets, not give it back to the buyers. The only way home prices are going to come down is when there is a decrease in buyer demand for homes. And right now, in many hot markets, there are simply more buyers than there are homes for sale. It's simply the law of supply and demand at work, which is keeping home prices high. So this narrative that homes will be more affordable due to this huge verdict against NAR and the other defendants is wishful thinking at best. Well, I know I covered a lot of material here. It's a very complicated situation, but I hope this sheds some light on what you can expect going forward as a seller or a buyer. Please give me a call if you have any additional questions about this matter. If you're thinking about selling your home in the near future, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to go over your options with you and to share with you how you can sell your home quickly for the most amount of money possible while keeping your stress levels at a minimum. Now, if you have any additional questions or would like to talk about getting your home listed, I would suggest that you book a one-on-one Zoom meeting with me at your earliest convenience. To do so, just go to the link in the comments section below. Hey, if you like this video, and I certainly hope you did, you might want to check out the ones right up here.